now tuned into Urban Force Media.
Hey guys, we're at Third Phase Oils here in Charlotte at 24th Street here. If you haven't had a chance to come down to Third Phase Oils, this is the warehouse. We're going to go ahead and do an interview with Wood, the owner, creator, the doctor of bringing oils to the Carolinas here in Charlotte. Y'all guys, sit back, relax. Another session at the round table.
Now tuned into Urban Force Media.
Thank you for giving me that grand tour of this massive warehouse, retail, liquidation. Man, it's big, man. That's all I can say about this spot. It's big, man. It's big. When I called you up, Wood, I asked you, I said, let's do an interview on your spot. And this one you was on ground. You said you ain't ready. Year number one went by. I hit you up. I said, Wood, you ready for the interview? Nah, man, it ain't ready. Finally, about a month ago, I seen you up in Lexington. You said, yo, LB, I'm ready. And when I walked into this place, I'm like, man, you are seriously ready. Tell me about 23 years of you being in the oil and scent business.
Just been a blessing, brother. That's the best I can really say. You know what I mean? When you come from where I come from, you just got to look at it that way. You know, just the start of that. When you truly come from the street, man, and misdirected, misguided, make mistakes, get off track, and you finally find something that's positive, can help people. That's pretty much the best way I can say it. You know, it actually saved my life.
The name Third Phase, how did you come up with that name?
The short story of it is working street entrepreneurship.
That's your three phases.
3 phases.
Working street entrepreneurship.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the first phase.
Working, man, my mother, great woman, sacrificed for 3 young men, raising them on her own. Father out the picture, you know how our community is. He made his mistakes, ended up being a dope fiend, got him off track, left her to carry the bag. So she worked for a company. I never forget, I was younger. We talk about it all the time. I looked at her check. A check said for a week's pay, $157.48 for 3 kids. That stayed in my mind. I'm like, for 3 kids? Ooh. So I was like, I couldn't work for nobody. When I got in trouble, I'm originally from South Carolina, got in trouble, they migrated me to Burlington, North Carolina, then I went to Richmond, Virginia, and then I went to D.C. All my family in D.C. pretty much worked for the government, so I got on with the government. I just couldn't feel it, man. I was like, it was a beautiful experience, an opportunity, but I was like, I can't work for nobody. I watched my mother work. I can't do it. I gotta do something.
And that's where the street part come in.
Now, you know, when you younger teenagers, you dibble and dabble there, but then it went next level that way. You know, you start picking up something. And one of my greatest assets was numbers, math, and all of that. So when you start seeing the right numbers, I mean, it pretty much makes sense. That's just the trick of the street. You know what I mean? When you see something that you can't go clock in and make, that's a game changer. So it's hard to change somebody's mind after they cross the line. You know what I mean?
So how did the third phase come into play?
Well, you know, just the entrepreneurship, man, and, you know, the street is destruction. You know what I mean? You destroying somebody else to gain your personal gain. You know what I mean? And once you start seeing that and you start understanding it, you know, when I first seen New Jack City, I used to laugh about when the old man told Nino, man, you think you God Almighty or somebody?
Yeah.
You committing genocide on your own people.
Right.
But to show you the mindset, I was younger and foolish, so I laughed about it. And then as time went on, experiences and, you know, going through trials and tribulations, losing people dying, going to prison, you in beefs, and gunplay, all of that.
And you know what? It's ironic you use that movie, New Jack City, because when I came in, I saw workers working. And that was one of the comments I said to you. I said, man, you got it set up like New Jack City in here. And with all honesty, with how far you've grown, the setup, I don't know if it's to your fashion, the way you like it, but when I walk through, I'm astonished as to see what I see. This, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing compared to how large this gentleman's business is. This is nothing that you see, and I mean nothing. What convinced you to want to get into this type of business?
Well, I say God, because if you truly come from the street, you know, everything is numbers and weights. So when I started selling oils, it was a match made in heaven because it's so creative. You got so many different businesses involved. You got body oils, burning oils, you got essentials, you got shea butters, you know, you got the lamps, they bring in the lamps. Then you're talking about air fresheners, incense. You know, it's just so well-rounded with so much involved. So you got like 9 or 10 businesses wrapped in one.
But let's go back. All right, 23 years in business.
Mm-hmm.
When you started out, your first package that said to you, was it shea butters or was it body oils?
We started from 30 roll-ons. Me and my wife started from 30 roll-ons.
And you were selling them for what, $5?
$5.
2 for $8?
1 for $5, 5 for $20.
5 for $20.
Yeah, and we ran that for years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we just changed that recently.
And you didn't do the shea butters. You did the oils.
Everything came in time. You know what I mean?
So that first week, you said, "This is it."
Yeah, I was tired, man. One of my buddies that got murdered, and his mother used to always say, "I can't even talk to my own kids, but I can talk to you sometime." She said, "Y'all keep running from city to city, state to state, doing what y'all do. You're gonna run into the same problems because you take you with you." And, you know, I was just tired, man. I come about the hood one day and I wasn't feeling it. You know, I went through an arrest and I was second guessing myself. And I think that was the hint right there, because I started second guessing myself. And I was just like, man, you know, that's it. You know, and I was like, that's it. You know, and I can't, it was either like we was talking the other day, you have a choice. You're either gonna die in prison, you're gonna die in the street, or you gonna make this work. Look at the option. Which one would you choose? You know what I mean? We had to make it work.
Now I know because when I first moved to Charlotte and got into selling items on the street, I came to you and I bought some of those oils.
Yes, sir.
And you were wholesaling them at a delicious price.
Yes,
and when I
sir.
say delicious, I ain't telling y'all nothing. It was great. And I was maximizing it, man. I was tearing it up. About like what you were probably doing when you first started out.
It's a numbers game.
But my starting capital at that point in time was maybe $200 or $300. What was your starting capital when you got into this?
Like I said, man, we started from 30 roll-ons. You know what I mean? We started from 30 roll-ons, you know. When you get it from the mud, man, it's not hard. You know, and I was just blessed. You know, God blessed me with sense, and I was intelligent. I wasn't a dummy. I was intelligent. So if you apply to it and study it, you're going to figure it out. But it takes effort, you know what I mean? And that's what most people, they don't want to reach that part, you know. You know, you got to get to the effort before you get to the money. You know, you put in the effort, you know the money coming.
You spoke earlier in reference to your mother. She worked hard. The education in reference to distill into her children wasn't there for you guys because she was working. What gave you the business sense to do what you're doing, or did you just learn it as the years went along? I
think it was a combination, because my she always calls it mother wit. You know what I mean? So my mother was big on principles, morals, and respect, and you know, so she instilled that in us. You know, stand for something. Your name got to mean something. Your name means more than money. You know, my dad was super intelligent, but he just made the mistakes and got off track.
Right.
So I think that was just in our DNA. Like my brothers is intelligent, my sisters is intelligent. So that was there, but just the principles and morals on how we raised, I think we all able to maximize it once you add that. You know, when you add principles and morals to anything, I think the higher being, whatever somebody want to call him, God, Allah, you know, the Most High, he gonna take care of the rest. If you follow that, it's gonna come.
I know a little bit about your family background, but your brothers and sisters, I don't think we really touched up on that. Are they in with you in this business?
No. I got a brother in Richmond. We got my dad. It was 3 of us with my mother, but it was a number of us from my father. So he kind of spread himself. You know what I mean? So you know, and a couple of them are entrepreneurs. You know, so you know they maximize it. I think, you know, some of them got families, so they didn't commit to it that way. So you know, they still good. You know, they still pushing.
As far as the discipline and learning the customer service part of it, how to handle customers, did you always have that coming up? I mean, were you a balanced person coming up, or you had to learn that?
I was out of control. Like I said, my mother stressed that. You know, even if you, in my neighborhood, you know, I walked through my neighborhood, you know, like I told you, the old people used to say, I'm praying for you, you know.
They would say that to you directly?
Yeah, I'm praying for you, because they know I was out of control, but I always kept a respect.
Well,
you know what I mean?
What caused you to get off balance?
Well, early along in the game, you know, we lost a baby brother I was 12, he was 6.
That's who's...
That's who the tattoo is. Okay. Yeah, so...
Let's see him.
So...
Oh, man.
That was my baby brother.
What was his name?
Terrence Dion. The same as my son. My son's name after him.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So when he passed, it kind of, you know, you younger, you don't know how to handle certain situations. I didn't know. I was unfamiliar with that. So I just lost control. You know what I mean? In a sense, was trying to die, just didn't know how to go about doing it. I was just out of control. You know what I mean? Wasn't ducking nothing.
Wood, please don't pay me no mind, but as you're talking, I'm 100% listening. I'm a great listener, but I can't help but to have my eyes wander on all that you have up in here. So with your brother dying, that was kind of traumatic for you, and and I take that word back when I say kinda. I mean, anytime you lose a family member, I mean, it ain't kinda, it is.
Yeah.
It is what it
Super.
is. So, but every time I came into your facility, whether it was in Lexington, Graham Street, now here, your demeanor has always been flatline, just cool, calm, helpful. And that's one thing I've noticed. When I came into you were very adamant on educating me on how to sell my merchandise. Is that something that comes comfortable with you, or? Well,
I was like that in the street too. So, you know, I feel like if you could teach somebody that could possibly destroy them, when you get blessed with something to help others, I feel like that's your obligation. That's a commitment that if he spared you, that I just feel like.
And you don't hold back either.
Nah.
You don't hold back none. I mean, because you don't have to tell a person, look, man, you can sell it for this. Whether they take it or don't take it, you're still offering that knowledge out to them.
Yeah.
Because some people don't know how to price it.
Nah, that come from studying. You gotta put in the effort to know what you're doing. You know what I mean? A buddy of mine, close friend, well, we end up being friends. We do business, but we end up being close friends. He always said, you know, anything sells, but nothing won't. You know what I mean? And it's major. You know, we have to keep learning from each other. We're going to always be students, man, until we close our eyes. If you get to the point where you know it all, you're not going to maximize what your target is.
Right.
You know?
How difficult was it for you to find that one supplier or 2 or 3 suppliers that you say, hey, the cost benefits me?
Well, you know, that's the name of the game. You know what I mean? When you come from what I come from, when you done dealt with that, this really easy work. You know what I mean? It ain't hard. You know, you put your life on the line for something that don't have no value, and then you start putting your life on the line for something that does have value. It's just about building a relationship.
Well, as I see some social pay, at one point in time when you was on ground, I was buying the bulk shea butters like this from a company, and I would come to your spot, and I'm like, Wood, how much is that shea butter? And you would tell them, like, wait a minute now. I just bought it from a big distributor. And your spot ain't as big as these people. How you getting it cheaper? So I had to stop buying it from them and start buying it from you.
Well, ain't what you know is who you know. You know, and then just because somebody come in from the door with one price point, that's not always the bottom line. You know what I mean? It's different levels of the game. You know, it's retail, then it's wholesale, then it's distribution, then it's manufacturing. But a lot of that is just not taught, you know, in our community. You know what I mean? Or either shared, you know what I mean? I just feel like if somebody is dear to you and you have information that could help them and it's not going to affect you in any kind of way, and you don't share it, you really showing that you are their enemy without even opening your mouth. Because my mother always taught me a tight fist can't get nothing in and can't get nothing out. So you got to be willing to share. And the powers that be will take care of itself. When you help somebody, you know, it just comes full circle. You know what I mean? And that's just how it is.
As I spoke about the shea butter, now this shea butter here is, what type of shea butter is this?
That's the yellow shea butter, imported from Africa.
Now this is straight from the tree?
Yes, sir.
From the root. Well, then what about this one?
That's
here?
the white.
And what's the difference in this one and this
Just the color. Same benefits and everything. It's just a choice.
one? So is it a different tree, or they just, so how does that one become that color and this one is a different
Well,
color?
from what I gathered, it's colored like with a leaf this way, but it could be different times of the season, different parts of that, you know.
But as far as the nutrients your body is getting from it, it's
Same
the same thing.
Same benefits. Same benefits.
Okay, I see up here you have the raw mango butter. You have raw cocoa butter. When people come in and they don't know anything about shea butters and cocoa, they just heard about it. What do you tell them first?
We sit them down. We have everything documented. My wife does all the graphics, everything. You know, she puts all the literature together. So a lot of times you got like a poster or a card that'll show them and walk them through it. And you know, now, you know, back in the day, nobody had Google. So we try to make it as simple as we can. You know, it's just like a teacher with students. You know, when you don't know something, you don't know. And I don't try to make it seem like we know much more than you. You know, nah, we here to help each other. If you came here to support us, that's our obligation to help you. You know, that's just how it goes.
Now, you started out with the roll-on oils. To this day, what's your number one seller as far as retail?
What the
No, as
particular
far
name?
as shea butters, roll-ons, the sprays, what's your number one seller?
Well, like I said, you can't really say because that's based on the customers. You know, we got particularly people that just buy shea butters. You know, you got people that just buy air fresheners, body oils. So it kind of works together. Like I said, it's like 9 or 10 different businesses wrapped in one. So you can't really, you know, it's going to be up times, you know. And anything that's marketed may move more, you know. Like now the sea moss is coming in. So that's moving real heavy.
Is this seasonal? Sea moss?
Nah, sea moss been around since Dr. CB was talking about it years ago. But when this virus came through, you know, everybody really on getting healthy. So now it's real popular. You know what I mean? So it just like based on something tragic could happen, and it just target you in that direction.
Now, I just bought some capsules because I don't know how to process this. I don't know how to cook it up. So for me to buy the small package, what would I do once I get home with this small package here?
Well, first of all, you got to clean it several times to get the sea salt off of it.
Now, how do I clean it?
Clean it with water.
Like I'm doing greens?
Just like you're doing rice, anything. It's just basic. You know, we know how to go in the kitchen and just clean it. Make sure you use it properly. A lot of people use distilled water, spring water, you know, different ways of doing it. As long as you clean it, make sure you clean it. You know, people add different things to it. People started adding like different fruits to it, but you gotta consume it quicker when you start adding fruits, because fruits ain't gonna last that long. So, but with that, you know, just plain 2 to 3 weeks in the kitchen, you'll be to use that. You know.
As far as soaps, now that was a big seller for me too, back in the days when I was. I see you you have a lot of different companies now from what you generally started out with. I think it was like 3, maybe.
It was maybe like 2 or 3, but now we got like 6 or 7 different ones. You know, variety sales. So we try to keep it variety. Soaps is real heavy, like for females anyway. They love it.
Now, did NH, did they fall off the map, Nubian Heritage?
I think they sold out.
They sold out.
I think they sold out. If I'm not mistaken, they sold out to well, that's wrong. They sold. I ain't gonna say sold out, but just I think they sold their percentages to Target. I think yeah, Target.
Okay. Okay.
It's a tough business, man. You know, some people once they get to that price point, that's still a win for them. You know what I mean? So I wish them the best.
In reference to these soaps here. Now this soap right here is.
That's from Ghana also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, raw black soap. That's the purest kind you can get.
Now I've noticed with this right here, it dissolves quicker.
Yeah, you know, natural. You know, anything that's fully all natural, that's gonna dissolve quicker. But you know, but it takes care of what it's gonna take care of. You know, most people don't use it in their face.
Right.
You know, but the body you find.
Now you give me a rundown of all the different types of products you sell.
Body oils, incense, all kind of soaps, essential oils. We sell black seed. We sell detoxes, health detox, essential oils, lamps. We got these imported from China. That was a next level move. That was great for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And these are one of a kinds, or?
Well, these we got custom made. I got an artist to put these together.
Mm-hmm.
We came up with the idea, got a local artist to put it together, and we sent the sketch to China.
Mm-hmm.
Sent all the information to China, and they put it together for us.
Okay.
We did that about 6 or 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Now I remember when I was selling oils, my customers had their fan favorites, the lick me's, the eat me's. Are they still the fan favorites?
Yeah, because they're different. They're exotic names.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, we like that. We like stuff like that. You know how that goes. You know what I mean? Anything that's different make you stand out.
And when I was at the markets, I feel kind of edgy when certain customers would come over. I'm like, oh Lord, and I turn the bottle around and everything. They're turning. That's the one I want. I'm like, wow.
Even with the church people, it turned into a humorous conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It ain't nothing offensive, you know, as long as you keep it respectful.
Right.
You know, we all know we wasn't always the straight and narrow, so, you know,
Exactly.
it's disrespected, you know.
Exactly. So you have 3 businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You have not three businesses. You have
location.
3 locations.
Mm-hmm.
You got a wholesale spot in Lexington,
Yes, sir.
a retail spot on Graham Street here in Charlotte,
Yes, sir. Retail and wholesale, actually.
and the warehouse.
Yeah.
And you retail here at the warehouse too, or
We just wholesale. Yeah.
wholesale here?
Mhm.
Okay.
But we have people that's close to us, you know, they can still come through.
Okay. As far as expansion, do you see further expansion, maybe outside of this area?
I would love to, man, but it takes bodies, and it's a commitment. So, you know. And
Commitment, maybe you have to be there for a while.
Yeah, but, you know, we know the whole world is struggling with employees. So, you know, that would be a struggle because it's work. It's nothing that you could just grab and you just do it. We do a lot of things hands-on. Most everything we touch, you know, the beard oil right there is made.
Well, let me ask you
in-house.
this: What if say up in Asheville, North Carolina, there's a guy, he's selling oils way smaller scale than what you're on, and he has an ambition to expand.
We can
Could you
sit down.
branch out? Could you branch out to it?
Yeah, we can sit down. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, I don't mind helping, but the first thing has to be understood, man. It's work behind this. It's not going to be an overnight success. This has been 23 years. We started outside on the grass under a tent before the pop-up shops and all of that.
So your spot that you were on Graham,
On Graham Street, we started outside.
you didn't start inside the building.
No, it was an empty gas station, abandoned gas station.
Wow.
Yeah, so it ain't been. It's definitely not been overnight.
Now that property there is purchased.
No, we renting that.
You leasing that one, okay? But this one here, you are purchasing this spot.
Yeah.
Okay. When you started seeing expansion, did it frighten you, son? As if, should I really go this far out?
No.
When you had this, and how long you been in this building here?
4 years.
4 years.
We bought this. We started. We did the closing on this 4 years ago.
And as far as selling out of this, when did you start that?
Well, you know, of course, the customer's gonna follow. So, you know, we started selling, but I really wanted to be right. You know, my wife is working on our catalog now. Got a guy working on our wholesale website. So, you know, some things still in progress, but we just trying to get the wheels rolling. You know, a lot of people want to do it, you know, but, you know, we just trying to prepare it and make it as simple, understanding so they will know. But as far as fear, my father used to always tell me, son, something wrong. It ain't good not to fear nothing. You know what I mean? So when I was out there putting my life on the line, I wasn't scared then. You know what I mean? So if my life ain't in jeopardy, hey, it's nothing just to take the chance, man. It's just taking a chance. Money is a tool. You know, you shouldn't lose yourself into that. You know, it's just a tool. That's all it is.
When it come down to bulk purchasing, do you give like a special pricing on shipping, or is there free shipping at some point in time?
But now with this gas, man, it's hard to do free shipping. But we try to make sure the prices make sure they're compatible. We take care of who come to us. You know, that's a commitment that we made 23 years ago. You know, if you decide to come to us, we're gonna make sure you're good.
Tell me that one place where you shipped something to you and it blew your mind. They ordered from me.
My wife got a customer out of not Aruba. He orders all the time too. I forget the island. And then we got a customer came in one summer. We shipped to him in Korea. Yeah, it was amazing, you know.
And I bet the shipping on that was not cheap either.
Nah, but they said they wanted it. They love the product. So, you know, we try to do what we can do to make sure you good. You know what I mean? And you just have to respect that. Because your customers is who make it. You know, you can have the best product in the world, but if you don't have the customers, what do you have?
As I see your packaging through the years, I can remember your beginning packaging.
Yes, sir.
And look at your packaging now. I can see the growth. I can see the knowledge.
Indeed.
I can see the professionalism.
My wife.
Your wife.
I compliment that to her. Yes, sir. That's the brains when it comes to that. I used to draw, so I sketch it on paper, and she bring it to life.
Well, tell me something. Since you spoke to your wife, when you started this business, your wife, she was working a different business.
Yeah, she was working at a gym.
Now, how long did it take from her to leave that, go from that to come to here and be here solely?
Well, initially, you know, we was doing the clothes, so we was doing the urban clothes. You know, they was jumping, so we opened up a clothing store for her. She ran that, and then, you know, when that switched over, you know, we went through a lot of stuff, man, in-house theft, all kind of stuff, you know, family members, employees. And I was like, look, you got to come in. We can't, it's just too much. You know what I mean? So she came in, and we just kept moving from there.
You had said something to me, Wood, and this is where I lost my train of thought earlier, in reference to, we were talking about business, and say like the gentleman wants to come in and be a part of Urban Voice Media.
Mm-hmm.
And if I was to give him a percentage based on his buying price,
mm-hmm.
and you would talk about that, how if someone was to come in and say, hey, let me go in business with you, talk about how you would how you value what your business really is worth.
You got, it's all on your value. You know what I mean? You can't, 23 years, 23 years, it's hard to put a dollar amount on that. You know, I had a customer come and ask me, could he give me $10,000 for all our contacts? And I said, man, that's an insult. So I just did the math on it. You know, if you do $10,000 divided by 23 years, you got your calculator? Do $10,000 divided by 23 years.
Divided or a time?
Divided.
Uh-huh.
What does it come? $435.
Yeah.
That's an insult.
Yeah.
That's no money.
Well, you had me do mine. You asked me how long I've been in the entertainment business. And I told you I started DJing back in 86. No, 80. Yeah. 85. That's 37 years. And you asked me, how much would I feel comfortable with just my income alone, not nobody else's? And I told you at least 65,000. You know, just to say whatever. So if someone wanted to come in, they would have to come in at least $240,500. And that's not giving them 50%, 40%, 30%.
I mean,
I didn't even think of it that way.
You know, but you have to, man. Can't nobody, blood, sweat, and tears, man, is different, man. It's a dishonor for somebody to come in and offer you pennies for that.
That knowledge there, did someone give you that, or you just sat down and you thought about what is my worth? What is my business worth?
Well, eventually you have to accept that. Because like I said, a lot of things we not taught. So we get everything from the mud and learn as we go. So, you know, you have to sit down and get your value. You know, how could you just give away something that you put so much time and effort in, and losses and wins, more losses and wins, and you can't give that away, man. You know, and if a person don't respect that, he don't need to be a part of it.
Wood, as I seen some clippings of you, and I saw you give some motivational speaking teachings. Have you thought about, you know, renting a ballroom somewhere and giving crash courses on how to start the business, how to keep the business?
Yeah,
how to elevate the business.
I want to do it when we complete it here. You know what I mean? When we complete it here, yeah, it's more optional. You know, people just got to understand, you know, it's a price for that, you know. And I've learned over time, you know, when you give people something, they don't even really appreciate it. But the person that comes in and cut a check, they appreciate it. You know, everybody that we cut a check to, you know, I value our relationship. So I try to make sure that we take care of them. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's a very important point, you know, that we have to, and there's nothing free. You know, free is not free. You know, if somebody was to walk up to us now and just start handing us money, we're going to feel strange. We're going to be looking like, what angle you got? You know, you can just give me no money for free. So, you know, it's just learning experience, you know, when you grow.
Let me ask you, because my perception on it is a little different in reference to someone coming up trying to hand me some money. Did that come from being on the streets, working on the streets, when as far as what angle you got?
Yeah, that plays a big part, man. Because the trust is tough. You know, you dealing with death all the time. You know, the trust value is definitely. You get up every day. You know, my heart go out to anybody that's out there trying to run them streets, man. Because you got three options when you go on them streets. You're gonna run into a good customer, you're gonna run into the police, or you're gonna run into a robber. And only 33.3% is good, and that's a good customer. And that good customer, if he get into a situation, he's potentially gonna go bad. You know, that good customer go through a financial state, he could turn into a robber. So the odds is not with you in the world. And I advise that to anybody. If you are great at the street, you could be great in business. Do your research and find your products and get busy.
I like to see you get more of that, man. I really would. I think that people need to see and hear your story, Wood, especially for the young men and women who are on the lower level of sales. Even though they think they're making big money, you're on the lower level. And the reason why I say lower level, because it goes back to what you said. You got two places you're gonna go.
Oh yeah, indeed.
Two places. Eventually, two places you're gonna end up going.
Yes, sir.
So if they can gather that knowledge and not necessarily go into what you're doing, or actually go into what you're doing, but find something that's within the craft that they like.
Within your passion. Find something you're passionate about doing. You know, when I realized I I wasn't just good at selling. I was great at selling. My wife personality, she was great at selling. It makes sense. There's no
You're right,
need for us
because
to
you
go-
convinced me to buy some stuff, man. And I'm like, I got my car, I'm like, I didn't want to buy that. Then when I got to the market, I'm like, I got to sell it. I bought it. You know what I'm saying? And it's sold. It's sold.
What I'm gonna try and tell you, I'm not gonna mislead nobody into grabbing something that's not potentially is gonna sell. You know what I mean? I'm looking at the long haul. I'm big on relationships.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I'm big on relationships. So you can pick up the phone and call and ask, and you know, that's just what it is.
And think about that, Wood. You said you're big on relationships. Do you remember when we first met?
It's been a long time ago, brother.
It was back in 2003. And the reason why I know that, it was a time period when the stock market crashed. And at the time I was working for an attorney in Charlotte. And they laid us off.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
I had a friend that carried me to the flea
You was
market.
wearing suits, did you?
Yes, yes, yes. Didn't own a pair of tennis shoes. Didn't own it. Or a pair of jeans. Didn't have time because I was always in the office. But man, when I came to your spot, I was overwhelmed by what I seen on Graham Street. And the knowledge you were giving me was like I was back on the streets. But it was that good knowledge of the possibility of doing something good, honest, and clean.
Yeah, that's a great feeling, man. That's really a great feeling.
So that's been what, 19 years? 2003, 19 years.
Yeah. And we've been kicking it ever since. You know, pick right back up. When we run into each other, pick up the phone.
And Wood, you spoke about your wife earlier, and me and you, we talked about it. And I'm gonna end on this note. Every time I came into, well, I can say every time, but the times I did come into Third Phase on Graham, and you weren't there, I would ask your wife, how's Wood doing? He's doing great. Tell him LB said, hey. She made me feel like she knew me. And she probably did. I would come in sometimes, she said, and she would tell me, you want this as far as the oils? I'd be like, yes. She already knew it.
Yeah. That's a part of customer service. You know, that's a great feeling.
And it made me feel great. And even when I go to Lexington, I would ask her, how Wood doing? Oh, he's great. He on his way up. She never made me feel like it wasn't none of my business as to how you doing and where you at.
I compare that to Cheers. You remember the old show Cheers? They say everybody know your name. You know, that's important, man. You know, it's not like the internet. You're not connected to nobody. You know what I mean? You love the hands-on, you know what I mean? And that's just what it is. But that's taught in our age group. You know, you treat people. My motto is to treat every customer like your favorite family member. You're not going to mistreat your favorite family member. I don't care if you spend $5 or $10. You chose to come here. You know, everything accessible now just by your finger. So if people choose you, you got to respect that. You know what I mean?
Well, Wood, I'm glad to be one of your favorite family members, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for this.
Yes, sir.
I'm one of your biggest fans.
I appreciate it.
A supporter of you. I love you like a brother. I ain't for sure who's older, you or I, but I think you are. I think I look a little cuter.
We done had a few birthdays now, that's for sure.
I love you, brother.
I'm grateful for that. I love you too, man.
Much success to everything that you're doing with the business that you have, man. And I like to see you abroad, man. I really do. I like to see you abroad.
I
If I
appreciate
go
it.
to Miami, I like to see Third Phase there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they can find us, you know, www.thirdphasebodyorg.com.
Y'all heard it.
Catalog coming soon. Wholesale website coming soon. We ship all over the country, even out of the country, if you need it. So just contact us. If you want to get involved, just contact us, man. We got you. Whatever we can help you with. Even if you young brothers that's lost, I'll keep everything private. You can call me, inbox me, we can rap and try to figure it out, man. You know, you can be great at anything, but you can't be great at something that's going to cost you your life.
And guys, he mean that 100%. Once again, at the roundtable session, thank you guys for chiming in with us. Stay tuned. Until next time, y'all be good.
Stay tuned.